Welcome to the Domain Name Wire podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Alleman, and this is episode number 549. My guest this week is my neighbor and domain investor, Mike Cyger. We're going to talk about some hot topics in the domain name world right now. Mike will also reveal a new domain-related project he's working on, and it's really cool, so stay tuned for that. First, a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor this week is Sav.com and its domain name auctions. Anyone can list their domains for sale on Sav auctions and get in front of the customer base. It's a great way to liquidate domains. I've sold a few domains. It was quick and easy, and there's a great transfer process. In fact, if your domains are already at Sav, they transfer instantly. Best of all, sellers pay just a 4% commission. Learn more and start selling your domains at Sav. Go to sav.com/DNW/sell. That's sav.com/DNW/sell. Let's talk about some news in the domain business from the past week before we chat with Mike. First up, students are heading back to school and summer is nearly over. Looking at the calendar, I'm shocked to see that NamesCon is just about 10 weeks away. If you haven't gotten your hotel room yet, a quick warning, be sure to book your hotel through NamesCon's official booking link on its website. So-called hotel pirates are reaching out to attendees, trying to trick them into booking hotels through them. These companies do this to earn commissions or sell fake bookings. By the way, if you do want to stay at the official Marriott hotel for the event, I highly recommend booking soon. Rooms on the room block are about $260 a night. The current rate, if you book directly, is about $600. In other news, domain marketplace Atom has simplified and expanded its marketplace exclusivity rules. The company spends a lot of money marketing domains in its premium marketplace, and it wants to make sure people don't find domains on Atom and then buy them through the domain registrar channels. Previously, it allowed people to list on Afternic if they price their domains at least 10% higher. Now they're expanding that to any marketplace that gets your domains in the registrar search feed. So as long as you price for 10% or higher, they're okay with that. Atom understands they will lose some sales still to the registrar channel, but this seems like a happy medium for them. Interestingly, Brand Bucket posted on Twitter last week saying that they do not allow domains to also be listed on Afternic, and they found that this has increased their revenue substantially. Radix released its premium domain report for the first half of the year last week, and the company doesn't report all the top-line revenue like it used to, which is disappointing, but there are some interesting numbers in the report. The company sold 50% more premium domain registrations in the first half of this year compared to the first half of 2024. .tech led the way as far as growth was concerned, 70% growth year over year. Also, check out a story I wrote about unstoppable domains last week. The company is offering $5 new .com registrations as well as discounted transfers. After seeing this special offer for a couple months, I decided to take the registrar for a test drive. Check out my thoughts in a post on August 19th. Go check out domainnamewire.com to see more stories from the past week, including a couple of reverse domain name hijacking cases. Now, let's chat with Mike. My guest this week is Mike Cyger. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andrew. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful having you back. And I want to talk about several things today. One, a new project that you're launching this week, and then also talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the domain industry. So why don't we start with your new site here, Nerve. Tell me about Nerve.
All right. So nerve.io, I've had a need for it for a while, and I've started working on it about a month or two back, and I'm really excited about it. I'm looking at it as the technology backbone for domain management that will allow anyone to power their tools, their apps, their agents, and their workflows. So you can think of it as like, well, let me break it down. Every registrar in the world most likely has an API. And every API has a key and a password that allows users to programmatically update information about their domain names and their account. So they can create new domain names using a program. They can update the information about their domain names. They can delete information about their domain names, and they can read information about their domain names. But at every single registrar, each API is structured a little bit differently. So if you go to GoDaddy and you request information, it's going to look different and it may have different fields than doing the same type of request at a Namecheap or an Unstoppable Domains. What Nerve does is it creates a single API backbone that then interfaces with each of those registrars that you want to work with. So what we allow you to do as an end user who owns their domain names at those registrars is have a single point that goes into those registrars that then allows you to pull back all the information. So imagine one single API call, please provide a list of my domain names, comes back from all your registrars at one time, sorted alphabetically with all the information about those domain names. That's what Nerve does in a nutshell. It's like the Nerve system for your domain portfolio management.
As you say this, I remember when Whois became kind of private after GDPR, and one of the software programs I use, Watch My Domains Pro, they said, oh, just put your API in here and then we'll pull all your names. And I did that and people are like, whoa, no, don't do that. Don't put your API key because there are kind of no restrictions and that sort of thing. So you're saying you kind of protecting it and gating it as well.
Exactly. We're providing a secure and safe, easy to use access point for all of your registrars, for all of your domain names. The problem is that you brought up is that every single registrar that I've documented has an API system in place, but they don't allow scoping, which means that people who have your API access key and password can do the 4 operations, CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. So imagine the worst case scenario. Somebody gets your username and password. They can create new domain names using your account, your credit card on file. They can update your domain names and take control of them because, as we know, whoever's the registrant on file is the owner of the domain name. They can transfer domain names out, and they can even start a delete process for a domain name. That's called scoping of the keys. You wouldn't want to give, if you went to an office building, you wouldn't give a master key to everybody that has an office in that building. You would give them a scoped key that only works for maybe the front door and maybe their office. And so that's what Nerve provides. It allows people to scope their keys by allowed action. So they're only allowed to update or they're only allowed to read, by expiration date, by IP address that's making the call, by the referral address. So maybe only ft.com can make requests, and by domain name. So you can specify all the domain names at GoDaddy, half the domain names at Namecheap, only a single domain name at Dynadot. You're in control. And the other thing that we do is that a lot of times, and some registrars have really done this well, but a lot of them don't have an audit trail. So you can't see exactly what changed with respect to your domain names. I want to provide a full audit trail that is immutable through an Amazon web service that allows you to see exactly what the audit trail was for every domain name, the way that it was requested, on the date, at the time. And I want to give people an undo button. So let's say that you tried something and you hit the wrong button and you changed your A record for domainnamewire.com. Click an undo button and it will revert it back.
So I see how this could be useful to domain investors, maybe even domain marketplaces, that sort of app. Couldn't this be used just by developers in general or by companies?
Yeah, exactly. It can be used a lot by people in the domain name industry. For example, I built a script that uses Nerve that checks all of my accounts and looks for any changes, any additions or deletions of domain names from my account. What this does is tell me if a domain name leaves my account, and we all know that domain names are valuable, you're more likely to recover a domain name the sooner you spot an error that a domain name has been removed from your account. And I've actually heard about domain names being removed from accounts without notification to registrants, which just boggles my mind. And an ancillary benefit is that I will often see when a domain name moves out of my account, that's an Afternic fast transfer before Afternic notifies me that the domain name has been sold. So it's kind of fun because I don't have to sign into Afternic to look to see if domain names got put on hold like so many people do. But for businesses, you as a small business owner might want to provide access to your developer who is building out College IQ. Maybe you want to use third-level domains. Maybe you want to allow them to add a CNAME for a staging site that you can check out. You can allow them to make updates only to a specific domain name. So that's small business.
I've come across that situation a lot.
Or imagine marketplaces where like you want to sell domain names on ft.com or pseudos.com and you trust them with a small portfolio of domain names. You can select all those domain names, give FT a specific key that allows them to push a domain name that they've sold and have taken money for to their account, which then they can then push it to the user's account. That can be automated now. So it can happen basically immediately. And I hope to have settings where you can allow it to happen automatically because you know and trust a marketplace like FT, or things might come into a queue where you as the owner of the domain name might want to approve it before it actually gets approved. And in that case, it can sit in a queue until you approve it, and then it will notify the marketplace that it's available and has been pushed. I know I appreciate that feature at GoDaddy. I have DTVS, Domain Transfer Verification Service, and I like to just keep an eye on things that are transferring out. And then enterprises that do a lot of development, that are deploying continuously to maybe their GitHub, they have GitHub actions that are automated. They sometimes will need to push code to the live server that requires an A record or a CNAME record to also be set in their DNS. They can do that programmatically as part of their deployment continuous delivery pipeline. So really, it works across a whole bunch of different use cases for businesses.
So if someone creates an app on this and then they invite other people to use it, those other people would need to get their API keys at each registrar, right? And then feed that into the system?
So right now, you as the owner would go get your API keys at the registrars and put them into the nerve.io system. We use Google Keyword Management System so that we don't see anything. Everything is immediately transferred directly to Google. We get a secure, more secure than banking, blob that comes back and is stored that can't be reverse engineered. But from that, we can then provide a Nerve-produced API key and password that you can control, that you can turn on and off, and then you can scope with all those different factors that we talked about. So really, all we're doing is allowing you as the registrant to have more granular access to your domain names. And we're not going to charge for the basic service of transferring information because I'm not trying to monetize the API systems of any of the registrars. I'm just trying to help individual registrants better manage their domain names more securely and simpler, given that we're moving into the AI time period. We're going to have agents that are doing everything for us next year. AI systems are starting to code. So we need to provide them better instructions so that they can do more things. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not writing the software that does all these things, that does the continuous improvement deployment, that does the new marketplaces, that does the notifications. I'm not building any of that software. I'm building Nerve to help you, the individual, be more innovative in the domain name space so that we can grow the entire industry.
Cool. So this, you're kind of launching it this week. At this point, which domain registrars does it work with?
Right now, it works with GoDaddy, Dynadot, and Namecheap. And I need to do two things. I need to go wide and then I need to go deep. So I need to go wide, and you can go to nerve.io and you can go to the documentation. You can look at what we have available right now. It's a very limited number of tasks that you can request from the different registrars because it takes a while to normalize the information across them. But then once I've added enough features that people feel like they can build their own tools using this to service their own needs, then I plan to add more registrars to the process as well. I know a lot of developers like to use Cloudflare. I use, my nerve.io is at GoDaddy, for example, but I use Cloudflare for the DNS. And so it's going to be useful to have all the registrars on the system.
Cool. All right. So nerve.io, go check that out. Play around with it. Reach out to Mike if you have feedback, if you have ideas, anything, because it sounds like you're getting this out there, you're throwing it out there as it is, and you're almost going to kind of build or iterate in public here.
Exactly. And I would love to hear feedback from people on how I can make it better, what kind of tools they want to build, how I can enable them to build their own tools. I'm all for that. As most people know, I'm retired. I like to look for passion projects to work on. And I think this one fits the bill, and I'm really passionate about it and looking forward to helping people build cool stuff.
You can retire, man, but the industry keeps pulling you back in. All right.
Exactly. Well, I love my domain names.
Well, everyone check that out. And now let's transition a little bit and just kind of talk about some of the stuff going on in the industry. I'm always curious to get your take. Of course, you send out a couple emails each week. One of them, well, tell me about the difference between these two.
So I send out a newsletter on Friday mornings called Cyger Says, because I love my alliteration. And so it is, one of my resolutions was to write more. I think when we write, we can clarify our thinking on certain topics. And so I've made a concerted effort to try and post something to X or Twitter once per day, just to keep the writing juices flowing. And then because most people have a life and they're not on X throughout the day, they miss things.
Unlike you. Yeah.
I see everything, but I'm retired. I got time to do that. And so I send out my 5 favorite tweets from the week in a newsletter, formatted like tweets. And then I write some extra commentary because most of the time I didn't quite think through the entire thought, or somebody says something insightful underneath what I posted, and I want to highlight what they said. I want to summarize some different ideas that people have, what have you. So that's the Cyger Says. It's things that I've said, and then I provide some commentary or some smart things that many others have said underneath what I posted. And then on Mondays, I send out Cyger Selects, which is not stuff that I posted. It's stuff that I've read from other people that I think is either innovative or insightful or useful in some way. It could just be a meme. I try and have something funny in every newsletter, but we need more memes in the industry, people. And so, I select 5 things. It's a short little read. It takes 2 minutes for both newsletters to zip through them and see what's going on. So CygerSays.com comes out on Friday mornings, and CygerSelects.com comes out on Monday mornings.
Well, I want to do a live Cyger Selects here because just recently, Paul Graham, who is, I guess, one of the founders of Y Combinator, the accelerator, he tweeted, quote, "If you're trying to sell a domain name, quote a price. I often help startups find new names, and we always just skip the names that say make offer. A name is not even interesting until you know what it costs," end quote. What's your take on this?
I would never go to a auto car lot that didn't list the prices of the domain of the cars on the window, because then I feel like they are scoping me out. How am I dressed? Are they worth my time? Do they think I have enough money to buy the car? People appreciate clear, honest, listed prices so they can decide whether it's the right car for them or not. Having said that, I'm not going to a Lamborghini lot and expecting there to be, prices listed on all the cars. Maybe they do that, or Ferrari or whatever. You better know what you're getting. So I do see Paul Graham's take on that. I think most domain names should be priced. I think the top 1% to 2% of domain names have a highest and best use case that you may not realize is what it is, what the use case is. And so you should maybe not price those and allow people to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to think about this too. I think that there are a couple ways. It's should the price be on the lander, or should it say request the price? That's another thing that is kind of an interesting question. Because you can put a buy now price. I do see what he's saying. If I go to something and it just says make offer, I don't want to as the buy. I don't know. I don't know how to start that. In fact, I'm dealing with one today right now on the saw.com network where someone made an offer, and I think that they're reticent to do that, and they're always going to lowball as they start out.
Sure, because they don't know whether you're have low expectations or high expectations, whether you're in need of money or not in need of money. We've heard story after story about people pricing their domain names at 6 figures and then taking half of that when an offer comes in. And so, we're playing this cat and mouse game that I think is frustrating from both sides. I think that a lot of people, first of all, I think that 95% of domain names can be priced. I think most people don't price their domain names because they're unsure what they should price it at. They don't know how to do a proper valuation, or they have too many domain names and they can't value all their domain names before they, set their pricing. And they're also afraid that they won't go back and revisit it. Let's say that, agentic takes off. It wasn't anything significant 5 years ago. Suddenly that's the hottest word that everybody's registering. And they didn't realize that they own those domain names. Side note, with nerve.io, you should be able to type in, see all your domain names across all your portfolios that are in your account, not old data that you're looking at. That was thank you for the
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of teed that up right there.
But so I get that people don't want to lock themselves in, or they might want to set, what did Michael Sumner at NameBio call it? The moonshotting of domain names, right? Well, I'm going to wait for somebody to come to me and then I might moonshot it depending on how I'm feeling that day. I don't know. It's a funny industry that we're in. Used car lots or new car lots would never let me just moonshot it the day of. Let me come up with prices when people ask. They would have some processes. They would set the pricing. They would try and look for a sell-through rate that's appropriate for them, for their business. And then they would work from there. I don't think that single words in .com or even .ai that are killer words you could probably hold off on pricing those. I don't think that program is talking about those words.
And I think there's a difference. If someone does reach out and they say, hey, I'm interested, how much is it? That's them where maybe you provide a price. So maybe it's not on a sticker, but it's also not, well, you tell me, how much do you want to pay for it? And I think sometimes if someone wants an exact name, yes, they're going to fight for it. They're going to reach out. But if you put yourself in a buyer's shoes, that's not something they want to do.
Yeah. And nobody likes to negotiate like that. There's very few people that enjoy the negotiation. I was on a Twitter space recently where an investor named David, excuse me for not remembering your last name, said that he lists his domain names on Afternic with a price, but all of the domain names point to his own marketplace, their own web page, and he doesn't put the pricing on the web page because that might be, I don't know, it might be an issue with different marketplaces. But he's got 3 buttons. It says the domain name is for sale, premium asset, blah, blah, blah. And then it's got 3 buttons: email, WhatsApp, and Telegram. And it immediately connects to him. So that strikes me as much more approachable than make an offer. I'm not going to tell you anything about my expectations, just make an offer. And I'm going to set the minimum at $20 to even piss you off more.
And then you get upset when you get a lowball offer, even though you
exactly.
you set a minimum.
So, I think everybody's talking about marketplaces and landers and commissions, and I appreciate it. I appreciate when people try something new. He seemed to say that he was very successful doing this. I know that people will sometimes take their high value assets and just redirect them to their LinkedIn profile. So it's clear I own this domain name, contact me there, and then you get to see who it is. But I like the fact that he was integrating WhatsApp and Telegram in addition to email, because a lot of people around the world, that's their main communication channel.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to remove friction. To your original point with Paul Graham, that's friction. People don't like friction.
Yeah. And I'll read a follow-up. Someone asked him about pricing, and I discovered today I can't communicate. I can't reply to anything. Apparently, Paul has blocked me.
Really?
I don't think I've ever interacted with him in my life. I don't think I've even responded to one of his tweets. And I was like, why is everything grayed out? And it says, you can't do that. I was trying to send it to you. Hey, Mike, did you see this? Let's talk about this today. And it wouldn't even, Twitter wouldn't, or X wouldn't even let me share it with you. So I don't know what was going on, but I don't know. But so someone asked him, how much do you pay? And he said, quote, you rarely need to pay more than about $10K for a decent name. I pay more for an amazing one, end quote. So what do you think about that?
Paul Graham only likes .coms. He has said that over and over again. And $10K for a .com
for a decent
is not going to get you a single word.
No, that's for
It's
sure.
going to get you, unless it's like one of those words that nobody ever uses.
Or it ends in an ED or...
It's at the bottom of the barrel for Wordle lately, right? Does anybody else do Wordle? And like, it's terrible. We need to recycle the word. I'm going to start a campaign to recycle the Wordle words because we're getting at the bottom of the barrel. Yes, it's got to be an ing, it's got to be an ed, it's got to be a word.
And not a great one to begin with, right?
Yeah. So you can get a 2word.com often for
a decent one.
Under $10,000.
A decent one. Yeah.
Decent, right.
Yeah.
There was another person that posted below saying Anis Benesur said, had an interesting learning from my past startup. I could either buy Mixer.co for $12,000 or Mixer.com for $60,000. They went with the cheaper option, the Mixer.co for $12,000. They said, which I regretted. Microsoft ended up creating a live streaming platform and bought Mixer.com, which killed us from an SEO perspective. As an investor, I'm like, oh my God, it's not even an order of magnitude. It's like 12,000 versus 60,000. You totally should have bought the 60,000, but that's a lot of money for startups. We forget.
Yeah, especially if it's a solo or, yeah, it is. It is.
But .com, Mixer.com, that would have been a killer domain name to use. Yeah, totally couldn't get that today. A 5-letter, 2-syllable word like Mixer.com for $60,000. That would probably be
no, for sure.
A nice low 6-figure, 250, 400, somewhere in there.
Well, domain investors kind of piled on to the 10K thing, like laughing at that. Now, I couldn't do that because, again, Paul has blocked me for some unknown reason.
I will go post for you, Andrew. Andrew wanted to say this, but you blocked him, PG. You can go to Adam and search on domain names under $10,000. There's a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I sell domains for under 10,000 that I guess I would call decent, and they're .com. They aren't Mixer.com for sure.
No, they're like Blue Mixer or Silver Mixer or something like that for under $10,000.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on what you call decent. So that was Paul's. So that was our Cyger, not our Cyger says, our Cyger selects.
That's probably going to go into the next Cyger selects because, now that I've had time to think about it a little bit.
All right.
And I love it when people write back. They hit reply to the email and they're like, that's wrong, or that's right, or here's an example. And I love to get feedback directly from people who are subscribed.
Cool. So some other stuff going on in the industry, I think about Namecheap. Richard Kirkendall is very active on X, and he says what's on his mind. And his new, of course, so Namecheap, then there is Spaceship, which is kind of his spin-off registrar, very much in tune with domain investors in that it's less expensive, it's super fast. And then he has this sales platform on there called Seller Hub. And so you can create landers. You pay a 5% commission. Landers are landers. The other big thing is you get into Namecheap's search path, right? So you can sell domains through there at only 5%, which is pretty darn good. I keep hearing of domain investor moving some of their names over there. What are you seeing?
I have listed all of my domain names that are for sale on Seller Hub because I was seeing people sell domain names on Seller Hub too. Richard did mention that soon Afternic and Cedo would not be listed on Namecheap and Spaceship.com. And so I didn't want to be... as one of the top 5 registrars in the world, I didn't want to be...
basically number 2. Yeah.
Number 2. Yeah. I didn't want to be not found when people are searching because people do love Namecheap. People are starting to affinitize with Spaceship. And so, I wanted to make sure that I was having my domains found there. I have not sold any yet.
Did you point them to it as well, or you just listed them?
So in order to verify the domain names, you need to use their name servers to verify them. So I picked a day that I thought that I would have time. And so I basically I have most of my domain names at GoDaddy. I selected all the domain names. I changed the name servers to launch1.spaceship.net and launch2.spaceship.net, went and listed them all over there. They did a verification on all of them. Some of the CCTLDs take longer to verify, like .so or other CCTLDs like that, because they don't update their records as often. And so as soon as they all verified, then I changed my name servers back to Afternic. So my landing pages are on Afternic, trying to get the 15% rate if they sell through the Afternic network. But if somebody goes to Namecheap and Spaceship and searches and sees my domain name, they can buy it there for 5%, and I'll be happy, and Richard will be happy, and I guess Afternic might not be happy.
Yeah. And so I think about, getting into Search Pass there, one thing Afternic and Cedo have done is they've created these networks, and it makes it easier, right? You just list there and it goes into all these registrar platforms. So I think it's cool that I love competition in the space. I love that Richard is pushing the envelope. At the same time, it's kind of annoying that I might have to go list my domains in a third place. And then especially if, you kind of have to price them to improve your sell-through rate. This is some place that Nerve could help potentially, if you can get kind of the marketplace things there, which is keeping those prices in check and that sort of thing, because it's overhead, right? For us, as far as domain investors, to have to keep all those things synced. And that's where you also lose some of that. You forget to go delete something from a particular marketplace when that happens.
Exactly. Yeah, something sells on Afternic, you forget to delete it from Cedo. They buy it there too because something happened. They're not sure if it went through on Afternic. They didn't get delivered immediately. It happens. It's a funny industry that we work in.
The 5% itself, if you don't have the distribution, there's been kind of a race to the bottom, I think, as far as, a lander, you can do super cheap. So Namecheap 5%, Sav is, I think, 4%. Unstoppable is now doing them for 3%, right? It's really that
3% is basically at cost.
Yeah, which I guess it kind of shows how smart / conniving / I don't know that GoDaddy was to say, hey, if you don't point your landers to us, you got to pay this higher commission on all of your sales. So
yeah, I've often... Well, when I was working at GoDaddy, after selling DN Academy there, I needed to toe the line. But even now that I'm not working at GoDaddy, I still feel like 15% is fair, given the fact that they likely bring the distribution network. Distribution is the hard thing for us because a lot of times people aren't typing in exactly our domain name, and we're hoping that it's being suggested to them. And 3% is basically the Stripe fee that you or I pay on our
Stripe account. You're losing money when you do that, right?
But anybody that's ever worked in financial services knows that you have to deal with chargeback, you have to deal with fraud, you have to deal with, KYC, anti-money laundering. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. And for somebody else to guarantee me that I'm going to get my money regardless of, if I provide them the domain name, I'm happy to pay a couple extra percent for that, for the ability to sleep well at night, knowing that my money's not going to be taken back.
Sure. I think with GoDaddy, so, they charge the extra, 10% if you don't point them to them. So they're trying to capture those people that just go type it in along with that registrar path.
You can say that, if you point your domain names at Seller Hub and Namecheap or Spaceship bring you the sale and only cost you 5%, you're stoked. And if somebody goes through the Afternic network and you have to pay GoDaddy 25%, you might not have gotten that sale otherwise. So maybe you should be happy with 25%. Or, at some point, if they jack it up, you won't be happy and you'll pull them off.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. Adam just recently kind of updated their policy for listing on other marketplaces where they said, basically, go ahead and do it as long as the prices are 10% higher. And the thought, which is that most of the time people will, if they see the 10% difference, let's say they discover the domain on Adam, they'll buy it there. Now, they are aware, and we're all aware that that's not always the case. I remember when Braden Pollock was on this show and someone paid an extra $50,000 to buy it at GoDaddy. It was ridiculous, but he was like, all right, if you cover the difference, go.
I know, it's crazy.
Go right ahead. But yeah. Pretty cool.
It's like that old saying, you never get fired for buying IBM computers.
Yeah.
Most of your audience won't remember that. But that used to be the case, that they controlled the market, and and GoDaddy controls the market. They're a known entity. They're a public company. You have some sort of recourse. So, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of, another thing that people were talking about just last week is Afternic has released a new feature where you can see in your account the number of searches, exact max searches that people have done on GoDaddy for your domain over the past, I think it's 365 days, 90 days and 30 days, something like that. But you only see it in there if you're a member of the Domainer Pro Club membership, which is several $100s a year. That gives you it gives you the discounts at GoDaddy. You can actually win one, by the way, if you're listening. Go to dnw.com/trivia if you don't have a membership yet. Answer those 10 questions correctly this month, and you could win a Domainer Pro membership. But a lot of people are like, I can't believe I got to be part of a club for this, that sort of thing. What's your take on that?
My take is when somebody posted on X that here's what my afternick looks like as me not being a member, and it said, sign up to be a member, sign up to be a member.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Yeah.
Oh, that is kind of like a finger in the wound with some salt. I am a Domain Pro member. I did not actually hook up the metrics because most of my domain names are at GoDaddy, and they already provide those metrics in the DCC control panel, which I have enjoyed seeing it. So I had to do a double take on this news announcement.
It was not already there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised it wasn't there in Afternic. So I guess it's good for people that don't have their domains at GoDaddy that want to see how many times their domain is searched on GoDaddy through the Afternic account. Like if your domains are at Dynadot, this will show you how many domains it'll search at GoDaddy. Yeah. So that's some useful information from the number one registrar in the world.
Yeah, there's definitely value there. There's definitely value. I'll say having them on my GoDaddy domains is pretty smart from GoDaddy, because there have been times where I'm like, I think I'm going to let this domain go. And then I notice it's been searched a few times. I'm like, all right, maybe I should hold on to this,
Right. It's like trajectory is up, 365 is 10, but like it's also 10 in the past month or something.
Yeah. So, my standards aren't even that high. It's like if people are searching for this at all, it's like, well, maybe I should hold on to this domain. But
exactly.
But I also understand the frustration that people have. Again, I've already got the domain, whatever it's called, pro membership. And my main reason for doing that is for the discounted pricing, right? The $10.99 comms, about $11 right now. So it's close to at cost on a lot of domain names. So, and then of course you get Domain Academy thrown in there, all that sort of stuff. So
with all the tools that Domain Academy has that I,
Mike,
built out. Yeah.
Mike built most of those. I don't know if they've added anything since then.
And I love those tools. Yeah. I still use them on a regular basis.
They are cool. I like, also the Afternic Deep Search tool is probably the one I use the most. But Mike, it's great to have you on here and chat about some of the things going on in the industry. We'll definitely have to do this again, but I want to also mention here before we close. So nerve.io, go check that out. Give Mike your feedback on it. And then you can go to Cyger, that's Cyger, says.com and CygerSelects.com to sign up for those two newsletters. Let's see here. I just typed in, CygerSelects.com. Okay, that one doesn't tell me, but because you're using Beehive for that. But Cyger says you're using, I guess, the X platform, 1.4 thousand subscribers. Pretty good here.
Yeah, in the newsletter. It's not bad for people that it's never going to be a 1 million person list because there aren't that many people that want to hear what I have to say. My wife doesn't even want to hear what I have to say that often. So I totally get it. And I was playing around with the Beehive platform because I've been building insider.email for a while. I use it to build my own newsletters for both of those platforms. Yeah, but with the whole X instability, I've put that one on hold.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, awesome. Mike, thanks for taking the time to chat today.
Yeah, Andrew, my pleasure. And we should do like the winner of some of the trivia contests for this month. We should come out to Bainbridge Island and we'll do an island investor meetup with them where we buy the old fashions.
Yeah, sure. You know what? If they come to Seattle, take the boat over, we will definitely pick up some old fashions for them.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. My guest this week has been Mike Cyger. Definitely go check out nerve.io. That's a wrap on this week's Domain Name Wire podcast. You can listen to all previous episodes at dnw.com/podcast or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening.